Welcome back to Nobby on Cars. This is a Jeep. Yes, a sight that was really common on Irish roads in the 90s and some of the noughties. In fact, I had a transition year teacher who had a Jeep Cherokee. I think so. Anyway, he thought he was the absolute bomb. And actually, do you know what? When I grew up later in life, I realised he kind of was. So, grille. Bit of a throwback to the Cherokee. There's a couple of different petrol options, and I have them here because, to be honest with you, it gets kind of complicated. So there's an 11.4 kilowatt hour usable battery in the plug-in hybrid. There's a 1.3 petrol, a 1.5, and then they vary in terms of output and performance. So some are 240 brake horsepower and some are 110 if there's an E-hybrid and a mild hybrid. And then the trims are Night Eagle, Limited, Upland, S and Trailhawk. So that's everything there. And by the way, the prices are 43,995 to 53,495. That's a lot of money. So the interior's had a massive facelift and a serious upgrade. The rest of the car on the outside maybe not as much. Now Jeep fall under Stellantis Group, which now in Ireland are in charge of Fiat and Peugeot and Alfa Romeo and many more brands. So with that in mind, they are a serious player now, and they just have the flex. They can put a bit of effort into these Jeep models again, and it's all coming out of one organisation. So we're going to see more of a push towards these types of cars in Ireland. That is absolutely no doubt. It's a bit more refined on the inside, but is it more refined to drive? We're going to have a little look at that in a minute, but first of all, let me do you a little guided walk around tour, point of view style, of the Jeep Compass. That reminds me of the Cherokee grille. You get a little bit of blue around your Jeep badge here to let you know that there's a bit of hybrid activity going on. Definitely those wheel arches, you can probably see it there, they need to come out more. They don't, and it reduces the masculine vibe of the lines of the car. So that's side on profile. Size wise, it's not really any bigger than a Qashqai. That sort of size, that sort of length. There's a bit of ride height underneath those arches as well. Again, that would probably add to the ruggedness of it. And then it comes around to the back. You know, it's not a bad looking car. There's nice bits of contrasting going on with different colours, and the light clusters, very nice. More blue on the Jeep logo here. If you have a hybrid version of it, you're going to get a bit of this, and if it's an S trim model, you get a bit of that. The tailgate is electric. To open it, right? There's your boot, by the way. Plenty of space. 12 volts. The button though to close the boot. Oh, sorry. Before I get to that, actually, what's down here? Oh, look, the space and there's charging cables. Handy. So to close your boot, it's not actually. You would think it would be up here, right? But it's not. There's a handle, and you can actually manually close the boot if you wish. But in order to close the boot with the button, it's in here. What's that about? So you've got to close that and then step back and not clunk your head. All right. So that does that job very well. Nice bit of tint on our windows. Doors open nice and wide if you need to get people and animals and whatever else in. Now the leather interior, it's a bit of rain on that. You'll kind of have to ignore that. Do you like the hard, durable floor mats? This is what you get on the back. It is a bit cheap looking, but in fairness, you get a USB-C, a USB, and it's 12 volt. Yeah, fair enough. So you've pockets on the doors here. In fairness, those mats actually get a bit slippy when it's wet. Decent leg room. You can actually fit your feet under the seats, which is good. That's also good. I did notice an armrest. I thought, is there an armrest? What's this for? Well, that's weird. Okay, so it's not. Oh, it is. Well, that's good. So there is an armrest, but to open it and have it down, you have to see the boot. Right. That's a bit strange. Rear window, not massive, not small. Little tiny windows over there too. That's how the interior looks from the back seat. It's buttony and lighty and gadgety, to be fair. You see that brake pedal? The gap between that and up here is very small, so your feet get caught. I'll show you now in a second. Right, so this is how the steering wheel looks. Buttons all here, handy, shortcuts, different views for things, all good. This will tell you about your feet, right? So your foot's here and it gets caught quite quickly on that back there. Screen entertainment, it's pretty self-explanatory, shortcuts to things. Nav is good, a lot of detail in it. It gives you warnings about speed cameras actually. So let me just go back to that for a second. So yeah, it'll give you a heads up of where they like to hide. Now that is handy. Vehicle settings, CarPlay, all that stuff. Good wide angle camera, no complaints with that whatsoever. If you like shortcut buttons to things, they're all here. Look, aircon, hybrid mode, electric mode. If you want to be in full electric mode, if you charge, you can charge the car on the go using eSave, and also on this button here. Got different drive modes. So you've got sand and mud, snow, auto, and sport. The storage for rubbish down here. Wireless charging is going on in here, and the interior is alright. Again, there's a lot of kind of harsh enough looking plastics and stuff for the price of the car. Fuel economy wise, it is doing roughly 6.8 litres per 100 kilometers. So that's the interior of the car. Again, everything kind of feels hard wearing and durable, like in the sense of I've driven pickups in commercial vehicles which have similar interiors, and you kind of get it for that because you're like, yeah, they need to be wipeable and durable, but this is meant to be a family car at the same time. There's a 1.3 plug-in hybrid, which this version is, and that's 178 brake horsepower, and then when you have your additional battery, that's what brings it up to 240. It can be a bit noisy when it's just using petrol. It can be very smooth when it's in hybrid mode, and then you can have full-on electric mode, which is about 30 miles if you're watching this in the UK. Let's call it 40 kilometers if you're watching anywhere else. It's used a quarter of a tank of juice, so I don't know if the tank is particularly small since I picked up the car yesterday, which is kind of unusual. Obviously you can plug it in. Your 11 kilowatt hour battery will usually take a couple of hours to charge in a wall box, so charging, back to that full electric range shouldn't be too difficult. The steering, like, you can wobble the steering quite a bit to the left or right, and it has no impact on the direction of the car whatsoever. So steering, in my opinion, is just a little bit loose. Could be a bit more direct. It's a good seating position. If you like a higher up seating position, you'll like it. If you like the kind of the Jeep brand and I'm driving in the Outback in America, which you're not. I'm driving through Red Farnham. So it's alright in juice, but it is only 1.3. So 6.9, yeah, it's actually possibly a little bit high compared to the other plug-in hybrids. And yeah, the range kind of gives me an idea that it's be a smaller type of tank. Gear changes are very, very fast, so it's a slick gearbox from that sense. The steering does a kind of an assist on it that it's quite firm, but then if you oversteer it, it goes completely loose on you to make the steering easier. And that's a bit weird if you're going into a bend. As I was turning on to the M50 yesterday, on the red car, that kind of sharp bend, all of a sudden it was quite heavy to steer, and then it just turned everything off, and I was like, what are you doing? It just kind of had a mind of its own. Now, spec-wise, there's a lot on it. Camera's good, blind spot is included, you've got radar guided cruise control, but you have to get into the top spec with leather and the upgraded wheels and all that stuff to achieve that. Now, there's plenty of trims in their defence to keep just about everybody happy, but I don't think anyone's going to be happy looking at the price of 54 grand on this, because, well, there's an awful lot else out there, even from the Stellantis stable itself, like cars just as big. Take the Opel Grandland as one option. You know, you can get that in a plug-in hybrid with more power for less money. So there's an awful lot of competition out there, and I suppose people that are just passionate about the Jeep brand, maybe they're the target customer, really. But a lot of other people, I just don't know if they'll part with that kind of money for something that they're not entirely familiar with. A bit like where Kia would have been 10 years ago. Now, obviously, not as difficult a job to say, give me 60 grand for your EV6. But hey, that's why the people in Jeep, in the marketing department, get paid all the big bucks, because that's their problem. The interior is a big improvement on the pre-facelift version, though. Also, if I can get it to the frontal collision avoidance, it really beeps to let you know that you might hit something. Couldn't get it to come on there, but that's okay. There's always next time. Probably not the best thing to be displaying on camera anyway. So in hybrid mode, it's reasonably refined. It's just when it's not and you want petrol that it gets a bit room. Now, there's always plenty of grunt in it, don't get me wrong, but that will eat into the ever-decreasing smaller tank of petrol. The best way I can sum up the Jeep Compass is, if you like your four wheels quirky, then it's definitely worth a little bit of a look. That's what I think of the Jeep Compass, from interior to upgrading to driving the vehicle. And while the cheaper entry-level models are somewhat affordable, to actually get into a decent one like this, you're talking low to mid 50s, and I just think for a brand that really Irish people aren't quite familiar with in terms of seeing them on roads, could be a step too far. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.